thank you very much for joining our Cloudinary Cafe session today. We are going to talk about automated brand review with Cloudinary moderation, and I'm very excited to give you a sneak peek into this product because it has been developed in our emerging business group, and I'm go-to-market director for emerging business group, and I'm so happy to be here today with Karen because Karen is our general manager for moderation product, and she has been with the product from the day zero, and she worked on it really hard with the team, and now is the right time to show you what it actually does and how can it help you with the brand review and moderation of your assets. Before we start with the content, we have just a few topics we would like to discuss with you. So it is only half an hour. Please give it your full focus. We will try to be very actionable. So right after this webinar, we'll have a clear set of action items that you can do after that. Take notes on what matters to you. We would like you to really listen in. If you have any ideas that you would like to then share with us later, make sure that you note it down. And you will be able to use what you learned right away and still have fun together because it's only half an hour and it will be very use case oriented. So let's start with our topic that we chose for today. We have 3 stories for you about content moderation. And we just wanted to take real life examples that we have seen with different customers, and we would like to guide you through those. First story or first use case that we'll be showing you is the content rejection. And basically in this use case, there are many companies on the market that used content without the correct license. And when this happens, it usually has some consequences. So usually these consequences are legal, and that's not really the situation you would like to find yourself in. For this specific use case, what we are going to show you is how to audit all existing assets for the licensing issues and how to prevent the future unlicensed content from going live. And for that, I'll hand it over to Karen, and Karen is going to show us how this can be done with Cloudinary moderation and how to make sure that all the content that you have and you are aware where it's being used and what kind of license it has.
Thanks, Susanna. So let's see it in action. I can go into Cloudinary moderation from the left side navigation. I see here the home page, and I will click on Run Moderation. So when I'm running a moderation, I first select the assets that I want to moderate. I see here all the folders that I have, and I'll choose the stock library. I'll choose a few assets. Let's take 12. I click on Moderate Selected Assets, and now I can see all the rules that are active in my account, and I'll choose the rule that I want to check at this specific use case, not found on the web. I'll click on Moderate Selected Assets. And here we selected the assets, and this is good. This is a good workflow for existing assets, but for new assets, we'll also be able to trigger the moderation automatically on upload. So as you can see here, all of these assets failed because they are stock images, right? So they are already available online and they were found in multiple places on the web. I can even see when I click on one of the images, I can even see the link of the first match that it was found on web.
And when I see that all these assets in the platform currently have been rejected, when assets are found on the web by our system, is it what customers want, that they want those assets to be rejected, or is it that they want something else to be notified about it? What's usual workflow?
So that's a great question. And the answer is that it depends on the customer. So some customers, they do want to reject anything that is not unique to their brand. Others still want to allow the asset, but they want to know that it is stock or that it was found on the web. So we pass this information into the digital asset management system as metadata. Let me show you how that looks. Let's choose this image, for example, right? It looks fun. I'll copy the public ID. I'll navigate into my Cloudinary asset library. I'll search for this public ID. I now see the image. And then on the right, in the metadata panel, you can see the results that I got from Cloudinary moderation. So you can see the moderation status, that it's rejected. You can see the rejection reasons. Here, for example, the number of matches that it was found on web. And you can also see how many rules have failed or passed. Here we have only one, so we see only one. Another thing that we can do here is actually look for all the rejected assets. So here in the filter, I can filter by moderation status rejected, and I can see all the rejected assets by the Cloudinary moderation. This means that anyone working in the DAM can immediately understand the status of the asset without leaving their normal workflow. Let's go back to the slides and hear the next story.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and if we just touch on the first story, so is it possible that as soon as the asset is uploaded to the digital asset management, the moderation will run automatically? Because right now we just selected the assets.
Yes, definitely. So this is something that for selecting assets is good for existing assets, but for new assets, we can do that on upload. It will be available soon.
Okay, so for the second use case that we will need to present to you and we will need to share with you about where the moderation really makes sense is to accept assets from third parties that will have the visual standards of a marketplace. And you understand that in the marketplaces, you receive assets from different third parties. Some third parties maybe use white backgrounds, some use gray backgrounds. Some third parties have completely different aspect ratio of assets that they usually provide. And when marketplace receives assets from different third-party systems, it doesn't look as a nice visual experience if you show all of them together in one product listing page. So mainly because of that, most of the marketplaces have some moderation rules and different workarounds or workflows where they would like to get all these assets to look alike, to look similar, as if they are displayed on one website. So we talked to multiple marketplaces, and for one of them, there were clear requirements that they had on their site. So it was to show whitish background, to have the product centered and not found on the web. And maybe there were also some more, which Karen might share with us. So Karen, let's talk about marketplaces and what marketplaces can check on their website and what's their usual requirement.
Sure. So let's first see how we configure the rules. So I'm going back to the moderation product, and then I can see here the rules page. You can see all the rules that I have. I'll select only the active ones so we can be focused. And here we see the set of rules. So what we use for the marketplaces usually is the centered product. Let's quickly look at the specific rule. So the centered product here, we let you define how large the main object needs to be and how far it is allowed to be from the center of the frame. So here in this example, I'm asking that at least that the product will cover at least 80% or more of the frame. And this is based on what we usually hear from marketplaces who want the product to dominate the image and be nicely aligned, but they still need some flexibility for different shapes and layouts. The second rule is the no text outside the product. So here, for example, if I have a shirt or any other product with a text over it, then that's fine, it's approved. But if it's on the background, I want it to be rejected. And the third rule is the clean white background.
And for the white background, so let's stop on that. So clean white background, what does it mean? Is it in RGB colors FFFFFF, or is it something different, what looks white to the eye? What is actually the white background?
So that's a pattern we see very often with customers, because at the beginning, many of them say they want a pure white background, FFF. But once we look at the real assets, we usually discover that only a small portion of their assets are truly pure white. And most of them have slight lighting variations. And from a technical perspective, that is already a different RGB body. So in practice, it is much more common to define a range that still reads as white to the human eye. So we can configure it easily here. Let's create a new rule of white background. And you can see in the configuration here that I can choose pure white or whitish with some range. And this is all can be configured. And also I have some tolerance for the pixels in the image. That way, assets that look perfectly fine to a customer are not rejected just because the background is slightly off from pure white. Now, let's move to the results and see how it looks. So this is something I already ran, the marketplace assets. And here you can see first all the marketplace assets that passed all the 3 checks, right? So we have the centered product as we defined in the rule. We have the clean whitish background with a range, and we have the no text outside the product. So these are all approved with high confidence. And now, even when the AI is confident, we still want to give moderators and content teams control. That's why, even in the approved list, you can see here on the bottom, you can see the reject button. This means that if a human reviewer spots something that is not quite right, they can override the decision with one click. So for example, if I want to reject this asset, I'll click on reject, can add a reason. And now you can see that it turned from approved to manually rejected. And another feature that we have here is the history. So I see that it's automatically approved and then I manually rejected it. I can also clear the manual decision. And this will be shown in the history as well. So I have a full audit trail for each asset. Now, if I switch to the rejected assets, then what I see here is all the assets that AI is confident that at least one of the rules we checked failed. And here also, if we see something wrong, then we can decide to override it and approve it. And again, we'll see that it's manually approved, and I can see it in the history as well. So this is all under control, and we can also decide to do that in a bulk, for example.
And I understand that for all the approved assets and for all the rejected assets, there is probably some level of confidence that users have to get in AI that it's doing those checks correctly. What happens with those assets, or where are those assets where the AI can't make clear decision, and what can we do with those? How can we review those?
So that's a great point, because once you trust the system, no one wants to manually scroll through hundreds of assets that are already approved or rejected. So here in the filters, we can see the needs review. The ones that are marked as needs review, these are borderline cases where the AI is not confident enough to make a final decision on its own, or that the customer decided it should be under manual review. And this is very important because this is where the human in the loop comes in. So teams can focus their time only on these assets instead of going through everything. So let's take an example. Let's take this one, for example. So we see that it's not really covering 80% of the image, it's covering 76%. So it's close. So we can't approve it, but we didn't want also to reject it. And we also see that with the whitish background, we see that the background is white, but there are pixels more than the tolerance that we defined that are not white. And another example, here is an interesting example, because if we look on its preview, you can see that the background is transparent. And this, for example, we deliberately marked it as needs review because the customer can review these images. We don't want to approve them and we don't want to reject them. And you can see the reason here, image has transparency.
And so if my rule is that I would like to have whitish background on an asset and I receive transparent assets, it sounds like an easy fix. So what can users do after that, after they identify, for example, all the assets that have transparent background? What should we do about that?
So sure, in these cases of transparent backgrounds and other cases as well, we can handle that very easily at Cloudinary and automatically apply white background with Cloudinary transformations. So this is definitely a strong connection, the ability to fix by using transformations based on the moderation outcomes.
Yeah, it looks like great use case. So we've seen approved, rejected, and also assets that need review. So now let's look at the third use case, which is about restaurants and food delivery services and their workflows. So if there is a grocery and beverages services platform that is receiving assets from different restaurants and from different grocery stores and wherever else you are delivering assets from, you will probably receive assets from there. It always creates a lot of variety in terms of assets that they receive from those places. And it is very hard for the teams that are reviewing these assets to really easily say correct what is not correct, and it takes quite a lot of time, because imagine that for the grocery store somebody is going to upload an image of every single item they have in that grocery store, And from some stores, you will get amazing assets, but also the corner shop would like to send you those assets, and that corner shop probably created those images on the counter when they were where they are also doing different other things. So the quality and the way how these assets can be then displayed on the website really varies. And if you receive hundreds or thousands of images from different stores and different restaurants that have different levels of quality, this can become a major operational bottleneck for the teams to actually review that and show that on the website or in the application in the correct way. So let's now talk about the restaurants and food delivery workflows and where the moderation comes in and what they usually want to check about their assets.
Sure. So let's first go into the rules and see all the rules that we are checking for them. So I have all the active rules. I'll remove the ones that are not relevant. I'll keep the not found on web, minimum image size, the centered product I'm removing, authentic experience. I'll keep the no alcohol or cigarettes, and no watermarks, and no people faces. So these are the 5 checks that we can do here. Of course, we can add more checks. What I want to say about this is that you can see that there are different types for different rules, which means that it's a different analysis for each one of the rules. And here, for example, the no people faces, this is a prompt-based rule. So this is based on AI, where I can ask the question as I wish and fine-tune it.
So if you wanted to set up now like completely different questions, let's say I don't want any animals on an image. So can we just set up a new rule and add it into the rules that are being checked on those assets?
Yes, definitely. So I can basically ask any rule, set any rule based on the customer needs. Let's create one, for example. So I'll create a rule. I'll choose the content detection one, and then I can give it a name. Since we're in the restaurant space, let's make it sure that there are no dirty dishes. So no dirty dishes. And then I can also set a description, which explains my intent, but this is optional. And also here, I need to ask the question that I want, the prompt that I want to make sure that exists. So are there no dirty dishes? And I want this to pass. I don't want dirty dishes, and I can change the confidence score as well. I'll click on save, and voila. You see the no dirty dishes rule in the rule list. And when I start a new moderation, the rule can be applied like any other rule. So customers are not limited to a fixed set. They can express their own brand rules as natural language questions. Now, let's see the results. So I'll go into this run. I ran it on 100 assets. So you can see here all the assets that were checked for the restaurant scenario. One nice thing that we can do here is filter by a specific rule. So I see here all the 5 rules, but if I want to see only no watermarks, and I want to see what got rejected, so I can see these 2 are with no watermark, or with watermarks and rejected. I want to see no people faces, and I see what's under needs review. So I can basically see anything that I want. And this is helpful when a team wants to review or fine-tune one rule at a time instead of looking at everything at once. Now, once we are satisfied with the results, the important question is what happens next with the assets. So we reviewed everything. We are happy with that. And here you can see that I have the save to metadata in my DAM. So this can happen automatically, like we've seen in the first example with the stock images, or only once the user decides to do that with this dropdown. So we can save metadata for all the assets, only for approved, rejected, or only for needs review. And again, this gives you a lot of flexibility to connect the metadata to different downstream actions like notification, routing, or fixing with other strong Cloudinary capabilities. So the moderation outcomes can really plug into your existing workflow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this looks like a great product that is definitely getting there, that it will be usable by many customers. So just to recap, what we mentioned today, first, the use case was about the compliance. So if you need to check if assets that you have in your digital asset management have been published anywhere on the web, Cloudinary moderation can do that. Then for marketplaces where you need to do additional checks around white background or any other visual use cases, it is also there and it's possible to be checked. And then for food delivery and groceries workflows where we are checking if there are no people, if there are no cigarettes, no alcohol, or any dirty dishes on an image, that's also something what can be fully automated with Cloudinary. And Cloudinary moderation will also give you this nice visual user interface that will allow you to check after AI if everything has been done correctly. So now, Karen, if anyone on this call today is interested in moderating their assets, what should they do?
So basically, we are now opening it to beta testers. So please contact us. Let us know what are your needs, what are your volumes and your checks, and we'll be able to help you check that out and test it on your real assets.
Amazing. And also, if you use any Cloudinary ways how to contact us through account manager support or through Cloudinary website, it will probably get to us and we'll be able to help you with the testing. So thank you so much, Karen, for this amazing demo of 3 core use cases that we have seen so far about the Cloudinary moderation. It was very nice seeing you today on this webinar, and we hope that you learned something new, something what you will be able to use in your day-to-day or action on it. And we look forward to hearing from you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.